Welcome to Ninerology. I'm your host, Alan, and it is the end of day 2 of the legal tampering period, with tomorrow being the start of the new league year. And what else? The 49ers laid another egg, another goose egg, with several no-name signings, people that you just don't know who their name is. The 49ers couldn't even land Joey Bosa, let go of Leonard Floyd. In fact, you even have players on the team that are tweeting out farewells to former players, such as Jawan Jennings posting a list from the Gridiron. Debo Samuel gone, Kyle Juszczyk gone, Javon Hargrave gone, Malik Collins gone, Dre Greenlaw gone, Charvarius Ward gone, Talanoa Hufanga gone, Aaron Banks gone, Jalen Moore gone, Elijah Mitchell gone, and the list goes on and on. And how does John Lynch and company respond to what the league is doing and everybody investing in the trenches? They signed Jason Pinnock, a safety. They signed safety Richie Grant. They signed Luke Gifford, special team player. They re-signed Curtis Robinson, re-signed Kevin Givens. All players that you, of course, know, that you didn't have to Google. And then they signed Demarcus Robinson, 31 years old, wide receiver. You probably know his name, played for the Chiefs, played for a few other teams. Signed him to a 2-year, $9.5 million deal for a player that is older than 30, at a position they said they wanted to get younger at, that has off-the-field issues with DUIs, and that's who the 49ers wanted to pick up. Now, they know these signings are bad because how do they introduce some of them? Former Walter Payton nominee, because they know nobody's actually going to know their name, so they have to say something that people actually know. And this just shows that the 49ers front office knows that they are not competing. In fact, I would be upset if I were Robert Saleh. I would be upset if I were Kyle Shanahan. I would be very upset if I'm any coach on the team. Why? Because you are playing for your job. You're paying for your career, for your livelihood. You want to get promotions. This is how offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, based on how successful they are in that role, if they're successful, then they get an opportunity from other teams to become a head coach, to maybe become a coordinator. So if you're a positional coach and your team's succeeding, now you have an opportunity to be a coordinator. You from coordinator go to be a head coach. And they're basically throwing this year out the window. Robert Saleh just signed a record-setting defensive coordinator salary, hoping that the 49ers would be able to go back to the playoffs, do what they did because he's back. They're going to go ahead and rejuvenate. They're recalibrating, not rebuilding, and only to see that most of the defensive starters are going off. Now, they didn't have a great D-line, but those that they had that were starters, they're now gone, and they didn't replace them with anybody. And so, if I'm Robert Saleh, I am absolutely pissed I joined this. I was expecting to join a contender that maybe had an off year due to injury. Instead, I'm joining a rebuilding team. How does that make sense? How does that make us better? Kyle Shanahan, who's coming off a 6-11 year, is trying to prove that, you know what, I can turn this thing around, but how am I going to do that with no talent? Because how do you succeed in this league? With scheme and talent. So you have the scheme, you have the system in place, but you need the talent to execute that scheme. Well, if you have the scheme and no talent, it doesn't matter what you put out there. You're not going to do well. Yeah, you might have a few instances here or there where you have a little highlight reel. Somebody's going to play above their current contract. But when you put the roster you have now against elite teams, you are not going to succeed. And based off of these signings, in fact, most of the fans are upset because a lot of their favorite players are gone. Now, you can't keep everybody gone. Or can't keep everybody on the team. Can't pay everybody. We get that. You got to get younger. But Dre Greenlaw is the heart and soul of the team. He just is. And honestly, before the injury, there were a lot of questions. Is Dre Greenlaw actually the better linebacker than Fred Warner? Robert Saleh was adamant he wanted Dre Greenlaw back. And did they get him back? No. But you know what they did do? You look at Dre Greenlaw's contract that he got. They paid that same amount to 2 players that you don't even know. That's right. They paid that to Luke Gifford, who everybody's lining up to get his jersey, and Demarcus Robinson. You combine their salaries, that's right around what Dre Greenlaw is getting. And I would say 99% of fans would say get rid of Demarcus Robinson and Luke Gifford, bring back Dre Greenlaw for that same salary. That's fine. But no, they didn't do that. And so I think you have to start questioning the amount of input Jed York has now. If you recall, with Jim Harbaugh and Trent Baalke, Jed York started putting his nose too much in the NFL business, too much into the team's business. So much so that guess who they hired right afterward? Jim Tom Sula. We know what kind of train wreck that was. Then there was the Chip Kelly era, which we know that train wreck. And then afterward, then they hired John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and he steps out of the picture, shows up when it's Super Bowl season, so people know who he is. Hey, I put this together. But now things are starting to derail. I have to question, is he putting his nose in the team's business again and meddling in these decisions? If that's the case, we know where this is headed. And I think this is where John Lynch, this is your job to get him out of there. And say, like, no, I am the GM. I am the team president, or potentially the team president. There's conversations about him getting an elevated role. You need to stay out of the picture. Give me the money to succeed. And if they're not going to spend the money to succeed, they need to sell the team. Like, if your ventures are now for soccer because you bought a soccer team this offseason and that's where you're focusing, that's where you want to invest in, then why in the world do you have a football team? Like, sell the team. Sell the team and give it to somebody who's willing to invest the money to make the team better. Not somebody who's just going to sit there and collect revenue year in and year out based off the NFL's earnings. No, actually sell the team to somebody that cares about the product that goes onto the field, and then be off with your merry way. Like, fans, 49er fans, those that are enthusiasts, those that are passionate about the game, passionate about their team, want owners that are going to invest. Now, have they invested in the past? Yes, but we all know that this is a what have you done for me lately league. That's why coaches get fired after a couple years. That's why he fired Jim Harbaugh. It's a what have you done for me lately league. That means I don't care what you spent last year or the year before. What are you doing lately? If we're going to apply that same logic to players and to coaches, it should absolutely apply to owners. Jed York, what have you done for the team lately? And I'll tell you what you've done. You've saved yourself a lot of money. Why? By cutting players, not with the post-June 1st designation, by cutting them immediately so you didn't have to pay them their bonus that's due in March or April. And so I think it's time to sell the team if you're not going to invest. And then let an owner, invest in the team and put on a good quality product on the field. And that's about all I have to say for today. That's today's rant after day 2. Now, again, they could turn things around. They can nail the draft, but history shows that last year could have been just a one-off because this team has not drafted well outside of last year. And there are still some other things they can do in free agency. They can make a couple trades. You could bring back a DeForest Buckner, a familiar name. That'll help clear some things up with some fans. But I would say as far as internal strife, I would bet that Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh are both very upset because I doubt any of them signed up for this. They probably knew changes had to happen. But when you decimate the roster this much without having a plan to fill the gaps, and guess what? You're screwed. And if Kyle Shanahan's already in a hot seat, he's probably saying, well, give me the tools I need to help, make the seat cooler. And if you're not going to give me the tools, then why am I even here this year? Like, bring in the replacement now and let me go to a team that actually wants me and that's going to invest. Well, that's all we have for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.